You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Vadim Nayman. See, did I mess it up again? I tell you.
It's all good. It's the last name's easier than the first, so you did good.
Well, tell me a little bit about yourself and what do you do professionally?
So I'm a second generation bagel store owner. My father and family purchased Bagel Master, the store that I own, actually in 1990 when they first came here from Russia. And over the years, I took it over and I've been running it for quite some time.
So you're first generation American?
I'm an immigrant. I was 6 years old when my family moved here.
Is this like why a bagel shop? Like we're talking about bagels in general. I think a lot of people are like, I actually started figuring out there's a giant food trend between croissants and all these things. And I don't know how the hell we chose which are perfect for certain times of day. Like bagels are breakfast meals, you know what I mean?
They are a breakfast meal. I've tried to reintroduce them and kind of do more modern things with them to make them an all day meal. So the way my family got into it, actually, my great uncle, my dad's uncle, their side of the family came here in the 70s. He had a bunch of bagel stores when we came here. He was offered this one. He offered it to my dad, who had no experience in this field at all. He offered it to him. And my dad went into the business with a partner. And here we are 30 years later.
Well, it was something so largely popular too, especially back in that time period. If you look like, the war was going on around like, we were living off bread. That was everything. You had soup and bread, everyone,
Right.
families would bring home bread and they would get probably like one or two loaves that would last them maybe a week or two. And now we're in a world now where people are starting to steer away from bread, even though carbs are so damn good.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And it's funny. Yes, we are a bagel store. That's literally and figuratively our bread and butter. But the trends have completely changed. I actually a couple of weeks ago brought in a professional chef to do a plant-based menu, in addition to everything else we offer. So the most important part is keeping up with the trends, and or rather staying ahead of the trends and transitioning to give people healthier options within their comfort zone still.
Yeah, it's like back in the day, you could have easily just made bagels or made just bread in general, and you could have gotten away with so much. Bakeries are still popular, but they dive into other realms now. And yours is like, even I don't know, like you literally claim the title, the Bagel Master. So this is why I kind of want to understand where that name came from.
So my father actually purchased the store from the original owner who named it Bagel Master. He actually had a couple of other locations in the area. Ours was the only one that ended up surviving. And we had bought the rights to the name and logo and everything else when we purchased it from him many years ago. So it is a big name to live by. I think we've done a very good job of doing so. And that's what I go with.
Well, even we're talking about kind of changing up the menu a little bit too. Like, you have the title Bagel Master, but you guys dive into way more other realms. I'm guessing just because we're seeing, like we were saying before, with the whole trend kind of changing up, people are wanting to more vegan options. They're wanting more healthier options. I mean, back in the day, you could have easily just owned a bread company and you could have made so much money. But now it's like you have to dive into a whole nother thing because of the world we're living in.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny, I've had the conversation with not only, I have some employees that are, old timers that, grew up in this industry, worked at other places that have tried over the years to convince me to bring back or do like, a big thing about the Jewish deli. And yes, we have so many recipes and there's so many things that we have. We sell lox, we make all our salads, tuna salad, egg salad, white fish salad. We have all the basics. We do it. But the pastrami and the corned beef and everything else like that, if you look around the country, actually, there used to at one point there were, I believe, about 7,500 Jewish delis in the country, and the numbers are staggering. I think it's down to a couple of hundred now.
Yeah, I only have one in my whole state. That's literally our town has one. It's called Rosenfields, and they just made a second location, but it's like a family-owned Jewish deli. You walk in and like they literally like that's what I like about some businesses is the family aspect of it.
Right.
Even though anybody that has a big family, if you're in the house together probably 7 days a week, nobody's ever leaving. Somebody's reaching for a butter knife at one point. But it's like you can work with your family even though you guys do get on each other's nerves, but it never gets too big. You never lose the true aspect of it being a business. So many businesses want to expand out into different categories and try and make multiple locations to make even more money, but they end up going under because it's too much for them to handle.
I totally agree. I'm 35, but I've been in the business. I started working with my dad over 20 years ago. And there's something very, very important about, me for me to have been able to take over the business. I graduated college. I was supposed to go to law school. I always worked and helped out. And ultimately, me being able to let my dad, semi-retire and then hopefully fully retire soon was something so important to me. And spending the time and learning from him, and continuing it was very, very important. I've had a million offers over the years to expand, to do more, and I've seen what happens. It is something that I've thought about and am still considering, but I've seen what happens when you water down that concept. And something that's very important to us, and I think one of the main reasons why we've been able to stay successful, is the relationship we have with our customers. Most of our staff, knows, most of our customers by name, by order. People can just come in. They don't really have to say anything. They just come up to the counter and their order is waiting most of the time. And that aspect is very lost when you go into a franchise, setup, and you don't have any of that.
Well, let's look at McDonald's for instance. They make as much money as they do is because they're all over the place because they serve something cheap. But if we're owning a family style business such as like the Master that you kind of run, you gotta focus on the connections that you're gonna have with your people because you're not worried about getting a whole bunch of customers. You're worried about getting the ones that are gonna definitely come back. See, the people that go through the fucking drive-through at McDonald's, let me get an egg McMuffin. It doesn't if they go somewhere else, maybe like a few hours later, somewhere down the road, and there's no McDonald's around, they find a Burger King, they're pulling in there. They don't care. But you're gonna have loyal customers that are gonna keep coming back if you make sure you bring them in on the experience. You show them like, hey, we actually care about you. Oh, you're allergic to this? Well, here you go. I don't know how you would help somebody if they had a gluten allergy, even though I don't really know if that's super big of a thing. I feel like we just kind of made that up. But I mean, you can't eat a bagel, I guess, because you got to get some gluten in there.
Well, so I've done my best to adapt to all these things. We actually brought in a line of gluten-free products, because in order to make them and do it the right way, it's very expensive. All equipment, everything has to be completely separated. So what we've done is, you have to offer the option, otherwise you lose that customer entirely. So we've brought in gluten-free bagels. They come in frozen. It's a good option. Our customers like them. We just microwave them to defrost them. We also have gluten-free crackers, cookies, and pretty much everything that falls under that. So it's extremely important, to try to stay above and offer all these options. So I've been doing my best to do that. But it is very important to stay in tune with your customers, and we've done so for such a long time. that you really have to stay in tune with what they like, what will keep them happy. It's funny because there's so many people going vegan or going vegetarian now, and it's all these kids, and it's literally trends. It's not a serious thing. It's actual trends. And
It's what's happening. It's millennials. See, the thing is, it's a throwback. That's what's happening. When it comes to everything besides nutrition, this is old stuff that's being brought back again. I mean, the fact with the clothes that we're wearing, now like wearing your grandfather's flannel is a giant thing. I mean, I'm wearing one right now. I'm wearing a flannel, and literally everything. Like, there are some new stuff with the technology that we have, but I feel like we're getting so influenced with where technology is going that we're like, maybe we should take a little bit slower. And then we're starting to see things resurface, such as like, you know uh more classic stuff like suits are coming back, like all these types of things that used to be like for job interviews, old school style hobbies such as baking, cooking, glass blowing, all these types of things are starting to resurface again, only because we're getting force fed this social media and all this technology. It's expanding our minds a little bit too fast to where we are at kind of mentally, especially with the younger kids growing up with a cell phone. That's never been seen before. It's never ever happened before. And it's strange times we're living in, and we're focusing on, like, how new information comes out every 5 years or something, or every 10 years, that kind of
right.
exposes the old trend stuff. Well, it's like that with the healthy stuff. It's keto, then it's primal, then it's carnivore, then it's vegan, then it's this, then it's that, then it's this, and it's that. And it makes it hard as a restaurant business to try and stay on top of all that, because next thing you know, everybody's drinking bubble tea or baba tea, whatever it's called. And then next thing you know, we're only sucking on air. That's it. That's the new diet. We're just going to eat air.
Well, it's so funny you say that, because that's one of the conversations I have with some of my longstanding customers is, they'll come in and they're placing a catering order for, their whole family. And all of a sudden, somebody in the family is vegan or vegetarian. So I say to them, who is it? Is it an allergy thing? And it's not. It's the popularity. All of a sudden, their 14-year-old kid, demands that he or she can only eat a certain way. And my argument with it is, I totally respect it, I totally get it. But when you're out in the real world, when you can afford to do these things yourself, then you should be able to do that, instead of putting guidelines of what your parents should be catering to your needs, as opposed to the 15 or 20 other people at the house. They don't care. It's literally, well, this is what my friend's doing, so I'm gonna do it just because I need to do it.
And you
And
want you want
it's
to know what the perfect example of what you just said is? Fucking Uber Eats, man. Back in the day, you were stuck with a menu, and whatever you ordered is what you were getting. When you order from a pizza place, you're getting pizza. You're not getting anything else. But what happened? Uber Eats came out. Now all these kids are growing up like, man, I want pizza, but I also want Chinese, or maybe I want a taco. And then they have this one person going to all these locations and getting them their food. No, that's not how it works. Back in my day, if my family made food, if I didn't like it, I was sitting there until it was gone. It didn't matter. It's we have too many options now and too many choices for freedom, I guess.
I'm the same way. The problem is, it's not freedom. What it creates is, it creates a there's no possibility for somebody who's a millennial to actually understand the word no, because everything's been catered, everything's been given. And so when somebody actually tells them no, you have a whole like breakdown in their universe that they can't actually comprehend. And I'm not getting on a whole generation. I'm sure you and I think we're close in age.
Yeah.
um so
You
we're
said you're 35, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm 22. We're both millennials. We
Right.
fall in
So
that generation gap, but like you were saying with the social trend type thing, it's like that with the generations too. The older ones, that like my grandparents and stuff like that, were the ones that kind of didn't really understand what was going on. The more of the war times, all that type of stuff. And then when, like, my parents, for instance, around kind of maybe 10 or so years older than you, they they had to deal with like Woodstock era, that generation, that type of thing that was kind of going up. Like they were old enough to really kind of enjoy that. And then like my generation now, where it's all about like we're trying to recover the earth, we're trying to save it, we're trying to do all the damage undone. It's just a trend. I have no clue what the next generation is going to be, and I'm honestly kind of scared to see what it's going to turn out to be.
I totally agree with that, and that's one of the other things that we're dealing with business wise. All the new changes that come in. So now they're getting rid of all plastic bags in New York State. I don't know what they're doing by you yet. So they're removing all plastic bags. And it's funny, I just saw a meme the other day that said, "Oh, so you're getting rid of the plastic bag, but when you're at the restaurant ordering a chopped salad in a bowl with dressing on the side in a plastic container and the plastic fork that it's going in, but you're getting rid of the plastic bag, that it's always there's like a political motive to everything that will try to push people towards it, but the greater good. So New York State is getting rid of plastic bags now. And there was a meme I saw the other day that said, "Oh, so you're ordering chopped salad in a plastic bowl. You're going to eat it with a plastic fork. The dressing is in a plastic container, but you're getting rid of the plastic bag." So it's almost like a ridiculous thing of, well, are you really trying to help, or are you just trying to look good by pushing this issue and initiative? What are you really doing?
Joe Rogan said it best. He's like, vegan is just it's a movement. It's a political thing now. That's all it is. People are just being vegan to be political about it. Like, oh, I don't eat meat because cruelty to animals, and it's like we're choosing sides. It's like, are you really feel that way? Like, do you like? I have no clue. Bread's good as shit. So people that are going to be like, oh, I'm on a gluten intolerance diet or something. I'm on a gluten whatever. Just you're looking more closely at it. It's like we're just we haven't had any major impacts to millennial generations yet. There hasn't been anything such as like back in the day there was war. That's so whatever was like there, whatever was like at a restaurant, there was no like, oh, you guys don't use plastic bags, or you guys use plastic bags. I have to go away now, or you have to go to another store. It was no, this is what we have when you have to work with it, and you dealt with it. But now it's like we have an option, or this generation has an option to complain about something if it's not doing the right thing, and then be able to try and take a business down. It's like, okay, they still use plastic containers. Maybe at one point they'll move on, but right now they're not. So are you really going to refuse to eat here and go somewhere else? It's just we don't have anything that's kind of putting a thumb on us or making us all have focus on one thing. It's all about like, oh, I can complain about anything now.
I totally agree with you. And so that was one of the, as I mentioned, I brought in a professional chef to do a plant-based menu. He himself, he's a full health coach and chef and everything else. So he kind of gives the entire experience for a client. So he's not a plant-based, he's not anti-meat. What he does is he does it on an individual basis. So it's funny, he told me when he first started doing this, he's worked with a lot of athletes and a lot of other people. He had a lot of pushback from the vegan community because he was still advertising that he would give his clients meat along with, in addition to the salads and everything else he was creating. And the entire community started giving him hell because it wasn't good enough for them that he didn't cut meat out. And he was trying to explain to them, you do what's best for every individual person. Every individual body reacts differently to different things. You can't just cut certain things out, especially if a person, is adjusted to it. It takes time to do all these things. And he just stopped trying to fight them because there's no rhyme or reason. It's only, well, this is the way, and this is what I know, and this is how it's going to go.
Well, how difficult was it for you to adjust your menu and everything on the basis of the new like lifestyle thing? Like even hiring a private chef come in and make a whole veganized menu. Like, are you still seeing the average original customers that are still getting the same basic stuff? You probably see like maybe a few random people get the vegan options or something?
Yes. So one of the things it did for us, and it worked for both the chef and I. The chef has a big clientele that he was doing prep meals for, and he kind of wanted a base where people can come to him instead of him venturing it out. So it's a joint venture for us. so I've seen a lot of his customers that come in and they also get some of my items. Um, I've had a lot of customers, let's say a little bit older than me somewhere, that are trying to add that option maybe a couple times a week. So instead of them going into one of these, vegan franchises, I wanted them to continue coming to me. And that was my goal by bringing him in. It's not easy though. It's very different. Like my father, um, doesn't understand a lot of why, where, why do you have to do things like this now. And it's hard for him to understand. He was super successful for so many years doing it the way that it was done.
Well, his food showed for himself, probably. Literally opening up a bakery or like a nice deli or something when you could smell the bread as you're walking by. Like I don't eat bread, but
Right.
when I walk into a grocery store and I'm picking out like a yogurt and like next to the bread aisle or something, I can smell the fucking cinnamon raisin bagels, dude. And I swear
Hmm.
to God, if your nipples don't perk up when you smell that, then there's something literally wrong with you because it just takes me back. I mean, the amount of crazy combinations, and when something is truly really really good, you can smell it like through anything. Like it's just it brings you in. It's like, oh, that was something back in the day, the classic. It's him, like the original home style touch, that he was
Yep.
so successful on. But now we're living in a world where it's like, yeah, but it's not original anymore. It's all social media. It's like, to be a business now, you have to capitalize the market on interacting with everything from Instagram to Snapchat to Twitter to Pinterest to Etsy. It's like, all right.
And you're 100% right. And what's so rare about you, and I could just tell, you're an old school, very old school mentality trapped in this generation. And it's a very, very rare thing. I mean, listen, besides all these other changes, if I tell you what I have to deal with workers on a daily basis, where all of a sudden I have these kids who it was okay to not go to school because there's an inch of snow on the ground, right? And people don't understand why I fight things like that, where I'm against the school districts just giving days off because of this, is because they do the same thing for work. So if they think it's going to snow tomorrow, they're going to start texting me the day before asking if they really have to come to work tomorrow. And it's creating a mentality where literally, the whole participation trophy thing and the whole, everything's just okay to not show up. It's not. You can't survive. So what I've done with some of them, and to teach them a lesson, is, let's say, I'll say, sure, but if you don't show up, then you know what, maybe you should take the day after off also. And that they won't understand that. And I say, well, I can't rely on you if this is what you're going to do every time. I used to come to work sick as a dog just because the store has to be open. Our store actually hasn't closed a single day in 19 years. So, I pride myself on the fact that no matter what storm, no matter what happens, we're able to be open. And it's not just a business thing. We serve a lot of emergency people in this area. There's a couple of police precincts. There's a couple of hospitals in this area. So we're serving a lot of the emergency workers and stuff like that. And it's very important for me to, stand behind the fact that they can count on us being there. It's not just, oh, we're going to make money off them. No, we're there for them to be able to eat. We're there for them to be able to get food for other people who may not be able to do it.
It's being dependable. See, people want that reliance. People want to be able to know that, hey, even if I don't feel like going to that today, that option is always still there. But like you're saying before, we're getting millennials or this generation of people, even you're seeing older generations kind of fall into it a little bit too. Like, my parents are at, like that age group is starting to kind of pick up a little bit of the bad habits that we're doing. We let this thing in saying oh, they're just millennials. Oh, that's just millennials. It's like, no, it's a bad habit. It's a lifestyle now that we're making acceptable because of how easy it is to be your own self-starter. You're seeing people start up their own businesses like crazy. It's amazing, but it's also making it very, very difficult for a business to, want to please everything. It's like they want to try and keep their employees. So, oh, you're going to call out sick for the fifth day in a row? Go ahead, go ahead. It's like when you start doing that, it's like, you get lazy at that point. If you're going to keep calling out sick and then you know that they're going to accept it, you're just going to do it every day. You're not going to have the reliance to go to work. I try my best, even if I'm sick, I'll go to work because it's like I'd rather be out, moving around and doing stuff. Unless I physically can't move from the bed, then I'm still going in. But now you get a runny nose or something. It's like, hey, I don't have to go into work today. I got a runny nose. Sorry. It's like, okay, I didn't know we could play by fantasy rules here.
And literally, and that's what it's become. And it's the reliance, a lot of the mentality, unfortunately, as sad as it is, I have people who will say, oh, well, this is just a bagel store, what's the big deal that I'm missing a day? And I try to explain to them that the kids who are, either in school or in college, it's a job, and it's about learning. It's about how you're gonna, be for the rest of your life. I have a rather large staff here. I've had people who've worked for us for over 20 years. These people make, first of all, make good money. Second of all, have built a life for themselves. And for other people to just say, oh, it's just a bagel store, but you're going to treat everything like that in life. It's so important to have the right principles and have the right work ethic. And when everything's made it okay nowadays for people to just fall off. And it's funny, I look at the sports stuff, and my favorite is the time management, with athletes who are getting paid, 20-30 million dollars a year to entertain, literally. And you have coaches doing time management because it's best. You had guys like, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. These guys were half dead, limping on the court, and they were out there playing. Meanwhile, you have guys now taking a day off every, week or every other week to rest themselves. I think it's a joke. I think, all the you have so many coaches out there trying to justify it. And I think it all boils down to the same thing, that it's just become okay. And I think it's totally ridiculous. And I really hope, like everything else that came back, maybe we're going to have a change sometime in the next, couple of years, where maybe it'll start, like all the other trends, maybe it'll trend in the other direction, and we'll have improvement in that aspect.
Well,
you
it's
know
it's a lazy mindset that we're thinking of now. It's like, oh, I could just be creative, and it's like not everybody can be a business starter. Not everyone can own a business. Not everyone can fly a plane. Not everyone can do this. I'm not saying don't go after it and try it, but it's probably, you still need to, it's hard to say because I fall on both sides of this. I do think you should have a job, but at the same time, I think if you're able to create your own business, it's a good thing. But like jobs that used to be kids' jobs, pizza delivery stuff, and no discredit to any of them out there, but that's a teenager's job. That's like an under 20s job. Now you're seeing people in their 50s and 40s that are doing that job because it's open, and they have to work two jobs because sadly money and prices on everything is going up. So they're trying their hardest to make as much, and now your retirement benefits aren't even going to really kick in because it doesn't mean shit. You still have to go pick up another job. I've seen so many people from grocery store, like big grocery stores to small grocery stores to pizza delivery to whatever, that they're in their 60s and they're delivering this type of stuff. And I'm like, what happened? They're like, no, like my retirement plan for my work, in the time we're living in now, it's just not enough. I have to work another job. I'm like, that's terrible. Like, you worked your ass off for so long, and then the times are changing. Some dude's playing Fortnite and making millions of dollars. And next thing you know, you have to work your ass again on another job.
Yes, and I totally agree with that. And that's another thing, pricing now, and in the industries, and what's going on. A lot of it is political, and I understand what some of them, some of the politicians, where they're trying to make it where it's an even playing field. But what I don't like about it is, I have workers, where I start them at a certain point, that let's say they've reached a certain level financially. But now, all of a sudden, I'm told by the government that I have to start somebody at this level, even though they have no experience or no, and it's a very, very tough battle because it's almost it's disrespectful to the employee that it took years to maybe get to a certain level, and somebody below them gets to start out at at X level. So it becomes a very tough, tricky road with that. It also, and I understand people deserve to make money, and I'm a very, very big believer in compensating people and good workers, and they show up for me, they're reliable. So
Well, see, I
I
was installed with a very good work ethic. I left my job recently only because it just wasn't fun for me. You shouldn't ever have to dread getting out of your car to go into work. That should just never happen. And then once I got to that point where it was just getting too much, I was like, I'm just done with this. I don't feel comfortable here. And and they, it was like $16 an hour, which is pretty good. I worked my way up to that, but then I figure out a little bit later down the road that, oh, everybody was getting paid that. Only because of the industry in the hotel industry was so bad at the time that it was like, oh no, we're gonna raise everybody's. That's gonna be minimum wage now. And then I was applying at another job, and they're like, it's 11.50 an hour. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, how do you feel about that? That's like a $4 price cut on what you were making before. I was like, I don't give a shit. Like, if I'm happy here, I've met a lot of these people that work here. I know a lot of the people that work here, and they all love it, and it's like a fun camaraderie. And I can still get my job done and not hate my life. I would rather get paid less to be able to work at somewhere I enjoy. That's what you should be asking your employees, or when you're doing a hiring process. Like, do you want to work here, or is this just a job to the other thing? If they say it's a job to the other thing, they're like, all right, cool. And then you know where they stand on it. You can hire them and have them work, but you're putting faith in employees and putting faith in people. And they're just like, this is just a fucking job to me. I don't give a shit. I could leave right now. It's like, I don't want that mentality working for me. I want someone that's going to, like, throw in creative ideas. I mean, if I worked for you at a bagel place, dude, the amount of shit I could create would be blowing everybody's mind out of the water.
and I agree with you, and I love that, and that's why I've tried a trend to to hire younger people, and or people that are more creative and that are willing to bring something here and not just to check in just to get paid. I'm very, it's very funny to me because over the years, like I said, I've been here for 20 years, so I've seen quite the number of employees. I've seen quite the number of people. I grew up with some of these people, so they knew me from, somebody who was just cleaning and stocking shelves to actually getting to the point that I'm at and reaching, the point that I'm at. So it's so important to me for people who come here that are actually going to bring value and not just going to be a body that shows up at work. um so that is very important. I totally get that, and I love that. I love people being creative, and a lot of people don't allow that in their restaurants, or they don't allow it. I love when people introduce me to new things I haven't thought of, maybe, or just been afraid to try because I didn't have the person that was able to make that. It's super cool. I mean, I don't know if you've seen, a couple of years ago, I started doing, name sandwiches or like meals and certain things. I think you probably saw it on my Instagram with some of the new creations we've come up over the years, whether they be great, ridiculous, crazy sandwiches, or super cool new salads that are both healthy and funky enough for people of all ages, generations, genders to like and eat. So that's part of the new generation, the new generation of what we have to do to, I think, to grow in this business and to
Okay,
continue on.
if I had to ask you, what is the best bagel in your opinion? What is one that is like your all-time favorite that you would get, or what is one um that I guess you guys sell the most?
So everything, I think the everything bagel is the most popular outside of plain. Plain is plain. You have so many people that are just unfortunately some are just plain in life, and so that's the direction they go in. So that's the top seller. We also, a couple of years ago, we created we did flat bagels. I don't know if you know what they are. They're literally so they're a flattened out version of a bagel. I don't know if you have them where you are.
I do not.
Um, so we actually just, you take a regular bagel, you roll it by hand, so it becomes like a flat, crunchier, bigger bigger surface item. So to make a healthier one, we did a multigrain sunflower. So it's an actual multigrain bagel with sunflower seeds on it, and it's become one of our most popular items in store since we created it years ago. Um, it gives you the healthy, gives you the bagel side, it gives you all that. I personally, I've always liked everything bagels. We also do a whole wheat everything, which, when the trend kicked in a healthier direction, a lot of people moved to the whole wheat everything. So that's extremely popular. Um,
Do you figure that most of it is like this? Is it just a common plain bagel? Like people just want the bagel rather than getting it with a meal? Because I know you could do some crazy combinations, like throwing an egg on that bad boy, turn it into like a kind of like a croissant, but more of like, customized bagel. Like, what do you see the most typically? Because I mean, even though we live in a health conscious society more, when people go to donut shops, they're doing so much to these donuts now that are turning into monsters or something out of a laboratory. Like, oh, you don't want a glazed or chocolate or a brown sugar? No, I want one that's dipped in hash brown oil and soaked in goat meat, and then like it's just so much where you're like, holy shit, you got that on a donut?
Yeah, you know what? It all depends. Weekends I feel like are more traditional time. People just get, a dozen bagels for their family, get some lox, cream cheese, some salad, stuff like that. But we have a lot of people, especially, weekends with people going out, and we do a lot of let's say I would coin it hangover bagels, where it's a good combination. We make a killer bacon, egg, and cheese. That's always been a New York staple. It's a big thing, and people always laugh. They're like, "Oh, it's on a roll," but it doesn't have to be. And a lot of our customers will get it on a bagel. Where it's a perfect combination of both, and you're getting more of a meal because a roll isn't as filling. So, when you add that to an egg sandwich, or let's say a tuna melt, you're getting a bigger meal that will, fill you more, and, it's a lot more solid. So yeah.
When we talk about the bagel though, like just like there's the plain bagels, we got the cinnamon raisin, we got all these types. What is your preferred bagel, and how do you prefer it? Like for me, when I was a kid, there was cereal always, but then I discovered if you grab a bagel, put some butter on it, throw that bitch in the microwave for 10, 15 seconds, get your life together, son. Oh my God, that was heaven on earth. I hate sour cream, or cream cheese. I hate any of that stuff.
So it's funny. I grew up eating scooped out toasted everything bagels with butter and jelly. It's like a
Mm.
perfect, like melted, combination of just goodness that, I've always been a sweet and savory guy. So I love that combination. So whether I do it whether I add that with all sandwiches, I love the everything seasoning, in addition to whatever sandwich or whatever else we're doing. That's always been a favorite of mine. And that's really, so I don't know if you like tuna. We're actually famous for our tuna, and I've always loved it. I've, I will do an everything bagel with, tuna melt with bacon on it. So you're getting a lot in there. You're getting this savory. You're getting, it's a big sandwich. It's a combination of meat and tuna. But I feel like, I don't know if you're a big bacon guy, but I feel like bacon always is a great addition to any sandwich.
It's yeah, you can add bacon bits to anything and it'll just cheer it right up. Or if you take fresh bacon too. Now, all right, hold on. When it comes to I used to put them in the microwave because I liked them soft. Okay, I liked them kind of mouth watery where I can bite into it and you don't hear the crunch. But what I do like is when you toast it and you spread some nice jam on there and you get the sounds of the knife scraping against the bread. Oh, dude, you want to talk about ASMR pleasure? That's ASMR pleasure.
Yes, for sure. And it's funny. There have been a lot of articles written recently about people who look down upon people who get their bagels toasted, because if you're coming in, into a store that has fresh bagels, why get it toasted? But I totally get it. I like a crunchy interior. Our bagels are boiled. We make them the right old school way, so they do have a crunchy exterior. But I personally, I don't love like a gooey soft. I like it crunchy, so that's why I like toasting it for the crunch aspect of it. So, but those are all personal preferences. And I love when you have newspapers writing articles about the debates, the huge debates. It's really everybody has a preference for, eating. There's no, rhyme or reason. Everybody likes, I think it all started because some celebrity in New York got caught eating a lox sandwich on a cinnamon raisin bagel. So to people, that was like a foreign concept, and they started ripping the person apart for it. And it's like, listen, you can't hate on things until you really try them.
Yeah, don't knock
You
it till
have
you
to be
try it. My grandfather
absolute.
instilled that upon me. He's like, try anything once. I don't know if he was talking about cocaine or anything, but he was definitely pro, like, don't limit yourself to the same thing over and over again because you might not know what you end up enjoying.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have a very large customer base. The things that I have customers ordering bacon, egg, and cheeses with ketchup and jelly. Where that
Hmm.
could be disgusting to
Do you
people.
like ketchup on your eggs?
I'm not a ketchup guy. I'm a hot
All right,
sauce guy.
cool.
I'm not a ketchup guy.
All
But
right,
I know.
if you eat ketchup on your eggs, like my family's from Baltimore and they do that, and that disgusts the living hell out of me. It's savagery, is what it is. I had a guy from Canada send me a picture of him putting ketchup on his eggs after we talked about it, and I was like, "No, sir, no, sir."
Well, they all the shit that they do up there is really funny. And now there's a big trend. I don't know if you've seen the Montreal bagel thing has kicked in the last couple of years. They've become almost like they're like the new bagel, when all they've done is they brought back like the classic old, dense small bagel style, and all of a sudden apparently it's a Montreal bagel. I'm like, all right, guys, I know the Frenchies like want their own, thing about everything. They're better than Americans. No, it's not. It's an old style bagel. They they just reintroduced it, and they're calling it a Montreal style bagel. And there's places in New York popping up, and you have people like me who are classic bagel owners who are like, all right, guy, you've been here for 2 minutes, you're a fan, and it's just funny to me.
When you
So
typically create a recipe or you create a bagel style, like how do you typically come across the creativity for it? Like you just randomly get an inspiration for it?
sometimes people will mention it. We started making a French toast bagel a couple of, I would say, it's about a year and a half ago. So it's actually it actually has syrup and powdered sugar and everything on it. The base is actually, an actual bagel. But usually we like to stick to the traditional flavors. We do have about 35 different types of bagels in the store. Um, but we're pretty traditional. Something that I created recently was we created a spelt flour bagel, which spelt is a very healthy grain. So once again, that was geared toward the new type of eating. So that's really where I'm going with that these days. So things like that is really more health conscious. I'm not the guy that'll make the blueberry bagel because I think that's like a fake like Dunkin' Donuts thing. I'm a traditionalist with certain things, and bagel flavors are that to me.
Well, I've been trying to do this a little bit more because I do have these crazy kind of recipe ideas. So I'm gonna toss this at you. If we were gonna create a bagel, how do
Okay.
you typically go around like choosing with your customer? Like if I was your customer and I was approaching, I said I would want a bagel. How would you typically find me the correct one that would fit if I did not know?
So if you throw an idea to me, let's say you want, I've had so many people, ask for a cheese bagel, or let's say jalapeno or bacon or things like that. We know how to include those ingredients into our recipes. So we you know, if you come to me with a certain flavor, I'll figure out the rest and fill in, and then we'll play around with it, give you a test trial, where you come in, taste it, give your opinion, and then we'll keep playing with the recipe until we get it right.
Hmm. All right, I got an idea for a bagel. All right,
Shoot.
you got to stick with me on this one. So get one of the darkest probably shades of whatever wheat or something that you can get, whether it's like I don't know if it would be what type of grain it would be that would make like a nice
Probably
dark.
pumpernickel is the darkest.
So pumpernickel, take that. Let's say toast it or make it a little bit crispy at whatever you do with your boiling process. And then either take peanut butter or Nutella, spread it lightly on top. Add coconut, like the coconut shaved thing, like you just like shave a little bit of coconut
Okay. Yep.
on top of it, or you can add banana, maybe a little bit of fresh fruit on the side. Put it next to a parfait or like a yogurt mix. You can style it that way, or even if you did everything but take out the parfait, you put an egg put on top of the peanut butter. I know that sounds disgusting, but I'm telling you, peanut butter and eggs work for some reason. Put that on top, turn that into a breakfast sandwich. Bam, there you go.
That sounds amazing. That actually sounds absolutely amazing. You're not going to be happy with it, but our store is nut sensitive. So we don't have peanut butter or Nutella in store.
All right, then change the peanut butter and Nutella. So add, let's say,
We could do like a chocolate syrup.
yeah,
How
you
are
do.
you?
Well, you can do a slight like dude, Cool Whip.
Okay.
You do Cool Whip, you add a little bit of blueberries on top, maybe some sliced up banana, and then you can do maybe I don't know. How
So
else
it's
you.
almost like a waffle.
Yeah, but
Uh,
then you add cinnamon on top of it.
I mean that sounds like heaven.
And you just make it toasted enough so where like the Cool Whip kind of melts a little bit, but not too much to where it still kind of stays on there. Just sprinkle a little cinnamon, chop up some banana, maybe if you want to add a little bit of fresh strawberry to it, dude. Oh, put that on a side next to like a nice maybe some nice scrapple or some maybe a little like, side of bacon and eggs, man. It's like a dessert basically, but it's oh
It's like a Sunday ice cream with to go along with. But here's my question: why the pumpernickel or dark bagel?
because it's for some reason when you're going on I've started to notice like just with my own kind of like just mind in general is when it comes to a darker shade um the toasting factor I would say plays in a key kind of ingredient part. It seems like darker breads toast at a different kind of consistency than lighter
Yep.
breads do.
Okay.
That's just from my like observation of it like at sub shops and stuff.
You're correct. You're
And
correct. It's because of the flour. The flour reacts differently to the heat element. So
like
that's
all
where.
those times I walked into a Subway, I can't believe I was actually paying attention to more than just the actual process.
Well, clearly you're a lot more with it than most people.
But and then
Okay.
with like the Cool Whip, or maybe if you want to use a little bit of cream cheese and then you add some cinnamon on top of that, and then maybe a little bit of banana or blackberries on top of it. The reason why is when you spread it, it's going to be just enough to where it melts into the crack of the bread because it is toasted, and then it gives you that crunch, but it's not hot. It's not like so much where it's like you bite into it, you gotta wait a minute. It's just it's normal temperature. It's got the crisp factor to it. It's got sliced banana up there on top of it that's slowly gonna stay kind of solid, but still a little melty. And then you put a little sprinkle of cinnamon on there, not too much to where it overpowers it. It's delicious. I mean, that just sounds like I don't know,
I mean,
just
I think you're hitting it on the head. I think it's actually an amazing combination of everything. We may have to go whole wheat instead of pumpernickel because of the taste. So the
okay.
taste isn't overpowering because the pumpernickel taste is very strong. I don't know if you've eaten pumpernickel bagels or bread, so it is a overpowering taste, but I think that's an amazing combination.
Now you could put
Um,
that next to a side of fruit or next to some eggs or something, and next thing you know, you got yourself a breakfast meal. Now you got to create it.
Absolutely. You know what? We're gonna have to go over exactly the details of what I want to make sure I don't miss anything, and I'll absolutely do that for you and send you a picture.
Dude,
I'm
that'd be
all
dope.
about that.
I would
I'm
definitely
all
put that.
about that.
I would put that on my podcast site and be like, "This is a bagel, and it's beautiful." Just stare at it. It's the Mona Lisa of all bagels. You know it.
Listen, it's a personal creation. I love that. That's absolutely awesome.
Have you ever had someone come up there and do that to you? Just randomly start tossing out a bunch of stuff to add onto a bagel. You're like, I don't think that's gonna work, and then you see it done. You're like, damn, it does look pretty good.
Well, so I'm very open to everything. Mostly, it's really people's ideas with sandwich combinations. Not many people offer different kinds of bagel, like an actual what you came up with toppings and stuff. So I totally get that. But it's mostly different sandwich ideas, and I'm literally open to everything. And I personally try everything because I'm always interested, and that's one of the reasons a couple years ago why I started naming things after people, and actually making those sandwiches or combinations and actually naming it after them. So, it's and when I started it, it kind of took off. Everybody now is kind of fighting for that position of, oh, well, what's going to be the next one? Who's going to be the next one to make it onto the menu? And what is the item?
Well, that makes it more personable as a business owner too when you're connecting with people like that. I mean, we do like it's nice because you're kind of like you kind of have the technology at hand too. You have the social media aspect. You understand how impactful it is now compared to how your dad might understand it. But you also don't lose the whole humble experience because I could tell you there could be some company out there that can market and do everything perfectly with advertisement, do giveaways, do whatever to make people really want to come to their store. But then it gets lost when they walk in the store and realize that nobody actually gives a shit about them as much as the social media account did. Like Taco Bell has the best freaking, or no, it's not Taco Bell, it's Wendy's has the best Twitter of all time. But that's not when you go there, it's not that feeling like, oh, this is the one that's like tweeting out at other restaurants and stuff and making fun of McDonald's and everything. No, when you walk in there, it's just another company. And when that you can feel that when you walk in the door somewhere. And that's when a business truly, I think, loses, especially if it's a family business, it becomes too big or something. When you walk in the door and you don't feel like an individual or you just feel like another number, it's makes it very, very difficult to want to keep eating there.
I totally agree with that, Rob. And I think that's why it's so important that no matter how many offers and how many times people say to me, oh, when you open up your other one, at the end of the day, if I ever do, this is the home base. This is what my family built. These are the relationships that we built. And if I ever do open up another store, I will find a person, a manager, somebody else to create that in the other store. Because I think as these small mom and pop stores getting eaten up by Amazon and Target and everybody else, you still have people that absolutely appreciate that experience. And I think it's so important to continue that because as much as listen, I shop on Amazon, my wife shops on Amazon, everybody shops on Amazon. Amazon's not in the communities giving back to the community. When there's a local fundraiser, I try to be the first person helping out a local school or a foundation. Amazon's not there. So if you have that relationship with your customer and you're the one trying to give back to them, at the end of the day, that is what counts, and that is what matters. And I think it's something so important to have those, to have that standard and not lose that touch. So I absolutely agree with you on that.
I think people will find that the world works best when we serve as a community rather than serving as an individual. I understand the fact that it's hard to be reliant on others, but if we just had a little bit more faith and decided to, hey, have a conversation with someone, or take an hour just to shoot the shit, you'll start to figure out that people are more open than you think, and we're all out here for each other, not really by ourselves.
I totally agree with that, man. And I wish there were more of that. I think there's too much. Everybody assumes and everybody kind of just hides away from one another these days instead of actually talking to somebody. And I think a lot of that has to do with social media and phones and everything else, because it's so much more difficult for people. I mean, not for me, but for a lot of people that grew up just speaking to somebody digitally, it's so difficult for them to speak to somebody face to face or even on the phone. I know so many people that refuse to have phone conversations where they'll text me all day or email me all day, but it would be such a quicker, conversation on the phone. They just don't know how.
Or they voice text, man. That gets me.
That drives me
All right.
nuts.
Anybody out here listening, if you voice text, understand one thing. Your phone cannot sense emotion. So when you're saying something, even though you might be like, can you please go to the store and pick something up? Or can you do this? I'm really trying my hardest. Your phone's going to send it. And whatever that person is going to intake that information in a different way. They're going to read it like, can you go to the store and pick something else or pick something up? I had a hard day. They read it and they see that and they're like, okay, I've had a hard day too. And then it goes back and forth when really it's a giant miscommunication thing. Look, I have one giant rule is don't make me repeat myself. Don't do any of that type of stuff. And I have a buddy that I started this podcast on my first episode he was on, and he does it to me just because he knows it gets me mad. And it's all about just listening. Like if you send me 5 texts back to back and each are a paragraph long before I even send one, I don't text you anymore. I'm a phone call type of guy. If you got something to say, let's talk it out. I have people in my house that will call me while we're in the same house. Like, hey, you want to go to the store? It's like you couldn't have walked upstairs or you couldn't have walked down the hall and asked me. You had to call me. You had to text me. It's like, are we losing that much? Are we getting that lazy as people? That's just got to stop. I keep my phone in the car when I go to the grocery store. I want the connection with people because you walk by that fucking bread aisle, man. You smell that cinnamon raisin or something, dude. I'm telling you.
Hey, yeah, I totally agree with you, man. It's so important, and that personal connection has to exist. It has to exist, and paying attention to people and not just nodding your head or actually listening. And if we bring that back in society, it'll be a beautiful thing.
It'll be a culture shock for sure. I can tell you that.
That's for sure. That's
Well,
for sure.
Vadim, I really appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast. You have proved to me that you are the bagel master. I'll tell you that.
Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you for taking the time. And I know I didn't make it easy to make this happen. I'm sorry for that, and I'm so happy. And thank you so much for the invitation on and for having me on.
Hey, man, you came out and did it, and that's what matters, man. I was so very fortunate to be able to have this conversation with you, and I really want to give you here a minute at the end to kind of promote your content, tell everybody about your Instagram page and your site so people can check out the awesome creations and maybe come across that bagel idea I had.
Oh no, we're definitely gonna. That's not even a question, Rob. You and I will message about the exact ingredients. I'm gonna make that happen for sure. Hopefully in the next couple of days, where I like to not put things off, and I like to try things out.
I want to give it a cocky name. I just want to be like the mocking millennial, but I'm like, let's play it safe and just call it something else.
Well, it could be the out of the blank bagel.
Hey, I'm down with that. It's It's definitely not blank for sure, but I like it. Out of the blank bagel.
The name of the store is Bagel Master. The Instagram is the Bagel Master. I personally answer and handle all messages, everything that happens on there. I do have a food photographer that helps me out because the photography is very difficult with food. And he's a great guy. His name is Sal, the Grub Father. He's actually a very big influencer on social media, but him and I are friends. We have a great relationship, and he helps me out. Everything that's on there goes, through me. It's something very important to me, and I'd love for people to just check out the store. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram, our website. I try to keep everything as up to date as possible. For an old mom and pop store, I've tried to really bring it forward, but I do have the old school mentality, and I'm trying to keep the store an old type of mom and pop feel so that, our customers get that.
Look, they don't mess with the Colonel's original recipe. Why should you mess with yours?
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode.